The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Mike. Magic not here. He's actually in studio right now over at FanDuel. So we're not gonna have a Magic episode, but we do have Aaron Halterman joining us. Aaron, how's it going, man?
Yeah, everybody quit watching FanDuel for 30, 45 minutes and watch us instead, right? I know it's got a big crowd there for a Monday.
I know everyone excited to hear our reactions to the Preakness, everything that happened this weekend. We'll talk a little bit of Belmont Stakes as well. I don't know if you saw this, but Naira has a change to their pick 4 and pick 5 rules heading into the Saratoga meet, which I'm excited to talk about a little later. And if nothing else from the Preakness, we got a phenomenal quote from the coach. But first, and I don't know if you saw that, so I'm holding that one till later, and I did not mention it to you before the show. Before we get into it, just general thoughts on the weekend over at Pimlico.
I wish it hadn't have rained. I mean, that was always kind of a downer. They did run as many races on the turf as they could, so good on them for sure. But it did kind of make for some weird turf racing, right? But yeah. Look, overall, guys, we saw something just truly special. For Dwayne to win this race at 88 years old, it's incredible, Somich. And look, I mean, our batsman went down in flames, but at the end of the day, it's like that could be it. Literally, truly, this time that could be the last one for Dwayne.
I don't know. I'm never going to say never with Dwayne. I don't ever have him when he wins these races, so it's always frustrating to me. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's kind of like the Derby. I said this after the Derby. I was never picking Mystic Dan, so I'm fine with Mystic Dan winning because, look, if it was Forever Young, if it was like even if it was the 2-horse, the Browns horse, I can't remember his name right now. Sierra Leone. I would have been like, okay, I could have gotten there, right? Mystic Dan, I was never getting to. Yeah. I thought Seize the Gray was very difficult to get to. Congratulations to anyone who did. That's a heck of a call by you. And I think the start of the race was really important to that. But before we get into it, yeah, the Dwayne Lukas of it all, it's a phenomenal job by him to send this horse back, wheel it back after 2 weeks. I thought it was a tall task. Thought the Pat Day Mile took a lot out of him. Clearly it didn't. Torres, I think, deserves a ton of credit for the ride and what he did on the horse as well. And it was phenomenal to see his reaction. And then the My Racehorse part of this too. My Racehorse captures a second leg of the Triple Crown. They're just missing the Belmont now. And congratulations to anyone who owned the horse because that's phenomenal. And yeah, if you owned 0.1%, I don't care. You still owned a piece of the horse, and that's got to be a heck of an experience if you're winning the Preakness.
Look, the bottom line is on the My Racehorse thing, I think there's a lot of jealousy from people that don't get to say they won the Preakness or the Derby back when Authentic did it because it is cool. I'm with you. I don't care how much of a percentage you have on them. To have a horse in the Preakness is amazing, and then to win it is also amazing. So, yeah, shout out to them. Incredible feeling. Over 2,000 people won the Preakness as owners, so that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, never a bad thing. And that's the point of the part is like, look, horse racing needs good stories. A good story is a syndicate winning the Preakness. It's a positive thing to be talked about on air, and for people to hear that, hey, I could own a racehorse for $147. That's all positive for horse racing, which is something we need right now, Aaron. The more positives, the better in my mind.
Absolutely, and not to mention you won it with your horse is trained by the legend of all legends, the goats of all goats. I mean, and so that to me that adds a little bit of something to it. Not that it wasn't cool when Bob Baffert did it, another goat really, but for Dwayne Lukas at 88, it just adds that much more. Like it's just special, man.
And that was Dwayne's 7th Preakness, correct?
Yep.
So just one shy of Bob now. Can he catch Bob? They're neck and neck now here toward the end of definitely Dwayne's career. He's probably not going to be training for 10, 15 more years. We'll probably have Bob Baffert in our life for a little bit longer. Yeah. All right, without further ado, Aaron, let's go to the post and let's kick this thing off. All right, let's talk the 149th running of the Preakness. Your winner, Seize the Gray, 9-1. Thought, again, I mentioned the ride right from the top. And a lot was made about the Tories ride on Imagination. And I think that was really a big part of this race because we saw them go 24 seconds to the quarter, about 47-4, 47-3 to the half. So not exactly blistering fractions up top. And Torres didn't break all that great on Seize the Gray. I went back and watched the race again today just to make sure that I had, a all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. And when you watch the break, I thought Mystic Dan and Imagination actually won the break. And it was Torres that kind of hustled Seize the Gray forward. And when Dettori didn't cross, he just said, okay, screw it, I'm going. And he never stopped.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. What more can I really add to that? You're right. It look, the trip that Seize the Gray got was the trip we all Imagination would get, right? If for some reason we just kind of decided we'll just park Imagination 6 wide with no other horses inside of us all the way around the track, I don't know. I don't really have an explanation for what happened with Imagination. He didn't run a step either. But yeah, I mean, the race was basically won on that first turn when he took control there, talking about Seize the Gray, took control of the race and set those slow fractions. And if you go back and watch when Oxbow, the last Preakness winner for Dwayne Lukas, it was almost a carbon copy of Trips. Oxbow did the same thing. He was a gray horse as well, a little bit darker gray, but same kind of thing. Went out to the front, and everybody said, oh, he'll come back to us. We're not too worried about it. Just let him go. And then all of a sudden, he didn't stop, and he had Gary Stevens aboard that day and just didn't stop. And like you said, Torres won the race, just like Stevens did back in the day. So you got to give him all the credit in the world. At the end of the day, though, you can only do so much, and then it's up to the horse that last, bit, eighth of a mile or however long you want to say, couple 300, 400 yards. The horse still has to kick it on, and boy, did he ever. And he was actually separating from those two horses as they hit the wire.
Yeah, it was he finished. He was able to finish the job. And Mystic Dan got a great trip. We'll talk about Catching Freedom. I thought his trip was very good. I didn't see any real trip trouble. I guess let's talk about Imagination, because I guess that's the trip trouble. And I saw a lot of people, and I picked Imagination, so I'm a little salty about this. I saw a lot of people slamming Dettori for the ride. I wasn't happy with the ride, more because he didn't get the lead than anything else. I don't care if you go 23 and 3. You're a length ahead at that point because they went 24 to the opening quarter. And when he wasn't assertive under the finish line the first time, because I don't think that Torres was planning on going to the lead. I think this is one of those situations where he's like, well, I'm not going to give up the rail now that I'm here and I'm crossed everybody else. Like I got inside or got into the rail past Mystic Dan. I'm not going to just give it to Dettori now and let him set the fractions. And when Dettori didn't take control that early part, that I thought was the difference of the race. And after that, like, maybe Imagination wasn't good enough. It's 100% possible because he didn't run that well after that either. But he never had a chance from where he was.
I really don't understand it. I'm 100% with you. To me, you had to know we're going to go and just send him to the front. And I'm with you. If he runs a 23 opening half and a 47 and he gets beat, well, he gets beat. But he's at least where you would think. The other just odd. Odd thing is, why not just go right up to the hip of Seize the Gray, or at least put him 2 wide instead of 5 or 6 wide all the way around there? That was just really strange. I remember watching it live, and we were live, and I said, what in the hell is he doing? Like, I don't get what he's doing. And it was twofold. I don't get why he's not on the lead, but if you're going to rate, why are you? There's no horses to your inside. Go ahead and go over to that rail, save some ground. I don't know what they were thinking there, but you're right. I totally agree. Torres didn't really break out of there thinking or looking like, hey, I'm gunning him. But he kind of looked over and was like, well, there's nobody here, so why would I not do it?
Yep. And one of the things and Lukas and Torres have quite a history together. Lukas started using him, I believe it was at Saratoga last year, and has consistently used him. And he has talked about it in interviews about how he was not happy with Torres' aggressiveness in a lot of races. And it's interesting that now in the Preakness, you see all of that play out where Torres says, okay, fine. Like, I will be aggressive here because I've been given the opportunity. And one of the quotes that popped up in the chat here is the quote that I was referencing. I don't know if you saw this. There's a quote in DRF. And it's about Dwayne Lukas, why he prefers younger jockeys to others. And the exact quote here was, Jamie made the comment when he won the Pate Mile. I heard you in my ear every step of the way, Lukas said. They're listening. When you put millionaires on your horse, they're more concerned with where they're going to eat after the race. Just shots fired at the Ortiz brothers, at all of those guys.
He has said that is the best. That is so classic Lukas. And look, he said it before more lightly than that. He said, I like the younger guys because they'll actually listen to what I tell them to do, where these other guys won't. And guys, if you're newer to the game, Dwayne Lukas has done this with a lot of jockeys over the years. I mean, a lot. Luis Saez was a guy he did it with. He was pretty much an unknown. He put him on Will Take Charge up at Saratoga after Luis Saez was getting hot, and Lukas saw it. But Will Take Charge was one of the first big horses Luis Saez was on, and Lukas kind of brought him up the same way. And so, look, I'm not surprised that he's doing it again with another young jockey. And look at the success. That's maybe the greatest quote ever of all time by him.
I don't laugh out loud when I'm reading articles often, especially horse racing articles. I laughed out loud when I got that one. I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. And it does bring up the point where if you're able to coach up some of these jockeys to get the rides that you want versus the rides that they want, you end up with getting specific rides in big races that end up paying out. And this was the exact example of that, where he wanted Torres to be more aggressive consistently. He mentioned it multiple times to him. And at the best moment, the best possible moment, he gave him that trip and gave him that ride. Now, I got one more question for you. And I was thinking about this, and this is before we move on. We'll talk about the rest of the horses. This is more of a theoretical question.
Okay.
We've now seen speed play really well in the Preakness the last few years. Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that none of the Derby speed seems to be coming back in these races?
I think so. I think that definitely plays a big part of it. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, it seems like this Preakness is a carbon copy every year. Who gets to the front and then it's over. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and talk trash on Seize the Gray. I'm not going to do that. Right. But he is who he is. I don't think even his 2000, well, some of the 2000 owners, but not a lot of them would think he's like a absolute rock star of a horse, right?
Yep.
And we could say the same going about National Treasure last year, right? He at that time he wasn't much, but yeah, I think that advantage on that track, it's really starting to become a thing.
Yeah, we saw National Treasure go gate to wire. Early voting the year before that, It was either gate to wire or forwardly placed. Rombauer was either gate to wire or forwardly placed. So it's 4 years in a row. I think you've had to be top two, essentially, if you're going to win the race with the last two going gate to wire. And honestly, this one, like, I don't think it was ever really that in doubt. Like, I never thought Seize the Gray was loose. I thought maybe Catching Freedom was going to make a run at the top of the stretch once he got loose. But I never thought Mystic Dan was getting there. And it was just a question of whether or not Seize the Gray was going to be able to finish it off against if there was a deep closer. But no one really made a move in this field.
Honestly, I agree 100%. It kind of looked to me like, and this is their turning for home, that Mystic Dan was going to be okay, but he wasn't a serious threat. I'm not saying he was spinning his wheels, but he wasn't showing that huge burst that he showed in the Derby. You go watch the Derby on the turn, you're like, oh shit, like he's flying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Catching Freedom really fooled me because I thought he's moving and now we're going to see something. But you're right. You get to, not even mid-stretch. You're like, no, they're not going to catch him. They're just not going to do it. I will give, if you want to go to the other horses now, I will give Mystic Dan a ton of credit. I thought he ran a really, really tough race. And again, I don't think he was 100% at his absolute best, but I thought he really tried his butt off. And Catching Freedom, for me, he ran his race. That's kind of who he is. I thought his race would be good enough to win this race. But I don't think Catching Freedom can raise it to another level. I think he's going to do what he did. And if that's good enough to win, he's going to win. And if it's not, well, he's probably going to hit the board.
Yeah. I agree with you. I thought Mystic Dan ran phenomenal. Like I was not expecting him to run as well as he did. The betting was very interesting here. I know going I don't know what you thought, but going into before the Black Eyed Susan, I thought Mystic Dan was going to be sub 8-5 in this race.
Yep.
And we saw the Black Eyed Susan Preakness Daily Double prices, and he was the fourth choice, which was kind of crazy to me too. He went off the favorite, so we didn't see the exact mirroring of those odds from the Black Eyed Susan into the Preakness, but we did see a very flat odds board. Did that surprise you that it was essentially four horses that were vying for favoritism the majority of the hour leading up to the Preakness?
Shocked. Absolutely shocked. And once again, another big Triple Crown race where the odds are just crazy shocking to me. And another one where I didn't take advantage of it. So, so that is wildly frustrating. But the odds were insane for all the horses. That's how I would describe it. I know you liked Uncle Heavy in this race, Somich, but it's 7 to 1.
7 to 1. No, that's the hard part. You're trying to find someone that can really blow up a trifecta. 7 to 1 doesn't blow anything up, and especially when it's bet down from 20 to 1. It's like I saw those odds. I'm like, what are we doing? Why is this horse 7 to 1? This horse should be legitimately 15 to 1, right? Yeah. The 20 to 1 I thought was a little high. 7 to 1 was way too low. That shocked me when we saw it 7-1 there.
Well, okay, so you had him at 7-1. Mugatu was 16-1, for God's sakes. I mean, what a joke. And then look, even if you back Seize the Gray and you won, it's great. I mean, you're not complaining. Don't get me wrong, but 9-1 was too short on Seize the Gray based on what he had done in the past. Now, again, I don't want this to come across like I'm dogging him, because I'm absolutely not. And if you won, you won. You're not really caring, but really, you should have got a better price on that horse. Steele was 9-1. You should have got a better price on him as well. So it's once again another big Triple Crown race where the odds just don't make any sense.
Yeah, and Rodney mentions it. We got another commenter here mentions it. Enrique, I don't know. And Inke. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Yeah, Rich Strike Hangover is a real thing. We didn't have a 50-1 shot in the Derby. How weird! Like I could have circled 5 horses. It should have been 50-1 in the Derby. We didn't have a single one. Longest shot on the board here, you mentioned it, was Mugatu, who was not over 20-1, so didn't see a single 20-1 shot in the Preakness. I thought it created value if you liked any of the 4 favorites, right? If you liked Imagination, if you liked Catching Freedom, if you liked Mystic Dan, if you liked Tustin Gold, you got a good price. They just weren't able to get it done. And I thought, I agree with you. Seize the Gray, I felt should be, fair odds were 15-1, right around the morning line. But it just, you saw money come in on Seize the Gray after, and Mystic Dan, I think, is part of it because he was a long shot and won the Derby. I think people came back with a long shot here in the Preakness as well, and there were just fewer options. And so it's one of the reasons why you ended up seeing a better price there. All right, so Mystic Dan, let's quickly stick on him for a little bit. Your Derby winner is planning on going to the Belmont, so that's kind of exciting. At least we have him back in the Belmont, and going to be interesting to see what his price is there, as well as what the rest of the field will be. We'll get to the rest of the field here in a little bit. What do you think of Mystic Dan long term? Is this a horse that you think is one of the top level 3-year-olds? Is this a horse that's a Travers type contender for you? Do you think there's any interest moving forward toward the Breeders' Cup? Is this a horse that can step forward, or is this another one-hit wonder in the Derby?
It's hard to call him a one-hit wonder at this time because he did run well. He got second in this race. I thought he ran better than Mage did last year in this race. So, but at the end of the day, I look at the Belmont probables, for example, right now. And again, so much can change between now and the Belmont, so don't hold me to it. But I don't have a lot of interest in betting him there, right? And if I don't have interest there, you got to think Travers, Haskell, anywhere he goes. Am I really going to have interest in him? I'm not sure. Maybe on the end of a ticket if I can go deep, but I still don't think he's great, but I do think he proved a lot in that Preakness. I do think he came out and ran his race and gave it his best shot. But again, I don't know if I really am going to want him in the Belmont.
Yeah, I like Kevin's comment here. Mystic Dan wins the Saratoga Derby on turf. That would be the most Kenny Peak thing ever. Let's move forward to Catching Freedom here. I know you had Catching Freedom on top. I had him in second. We both like this horse quite a bit. Brad Cox wheeling back on 2 weeks, I think, was one of my positives. Not something that I thought Brad Cox would necessarily do, especially with the Belmont sitting there in Saratoga. I thought he ran well, just wasn't good enough. The pace didn't really develop for him the way he needed it to. It would have been interesting if Imagination did sit off the flank of Seize the Gray, and what would have happened then with both Mystic Dan and Catching Freedom, because I have a feeling if Seize the Gray was pressured a little more early, he would have had more trouble hanging on late. What did you think of Catching Freedom's overall trip, and where do you have him listed in that 3-year-old class as well?
I think he's right there about third, like how he's finishing these races right here about third. Listen, I thought he got a good trip. Again, I thought he's had 2 perfect trips, honestly, for his running style, what you could expect from him. And look, I mean, he ran great, I thought, but his great is not good enough to win a race like this. And that's kind of what we've learned with him in these last 2 races. Honest to God, I mean, if he was a really good horse, he probably would have won the Kentucky Derby, got the perfect trip. He followed Mystic Dan. Mystic Dan was starting to back up. Catching Freedom couldn't go get him. This race, same kind of thing. Got a perfect trip. He couldn't go get Seize the Gray. He tried, and he tried in both races. I think by now we've kind of seen it, right? When he's in a field like he faced Louisiana Derby, that it's not that great, he'll beat him. But when he's facing that top-level horse, it's going to be tough. So I don't really know what he'll do, where he'll go. If it's the right setup, meaning if there's not that top-level horse in the race, I'll probably pick him again. But it'd be hard to back him in a race like the Belmont where the big dogs are going to be there again,
Yeah, Catching Freedom or Catching Gunnevera, as Gunnevera loved to run these similar style races from mid to back of the pack as well. It feels like he's going to win the Middle America Derbies. Like he's going to win an Ohio Derby, a West Virginia Derby, something like that. And that's kind of where he should be. Or he'll surprise everyone at 12-1 and we'll all be pissed off when he wins a bigger race. And wonder why he didn't show up in that way here in the Preakness. It's a 97 buyer for Catching Freedom. That's his third straight 97 buyer. One of those produced a win. The other two, a third and a fourth here in the first two jewels of the Triple Crown. Caesar Gray got 100. Pretty good buyer for him there. Mystic Dan only regressed 3, runs a 97, has now run 100, 101, and 97 in 3 of the last 4 for Mystic Dan. So thought that was pretty good. Tuscan Gold ends up running 4th. This one's everyone's darling for Chad Brown, who skips the Derby, comes in here. We've seen him have success with that in the past. I didn't think Tuscan Gold ever really ran much. Like he just kind of finished 4th and never threatened to be any higher than that.
Yep, he got bumped out of the gate, and that got him thrown off a little bit. And then when he kind of got back stable, let's say, he didn't grab hold of the track at all. He was just kind of he just hated it. He hated life. And hell, Gafleon was giving him reminders up the backside and in front, across the wire for the first time. And it's like he just couldn't get him to do anything. So I think if there is one you can draw a line through, it's probably him. I still am. I was skeptical of how good he was coming into the race and even coming out. I mean, you got to be the same way. I still don't know that he's that good. But look, I mean, if you liked him, I wouldn't get, overly upset because he just didn't do much in this race. He just never was able to get into it.
What's that 3-year-old listed? Is it the Curlin, the 3-year-old listed stakes at Saratoga?
Yep.
I mean, he's your 7-5 favorite in the Curlin right now?
Yep.
But doesn't that make perfect sense for him to go there and then run back to the Travers?
It would make sense. Yeah, for sure. I can't think of there's another race at Belmont. Well, it'll be at Aqueduct this year. Gosh, I can't think of the name of it. I don't know. But anyway, a race like that, the Curlin or the race I can't think of at Belmont for 3-year-olds before Saratoga, one of those 2 races would make total sense for him.
The Curlin, the reason we mentioned it's a restricted stakes. You cannot have won a graded stakes in the past, right? And so it sets up for a little bit easier of a field day before the Jim Dandy, so it gives you a ample time to train up into the Travers. We've seen the winners of that race go to the Travers the last few years, although I don't believe any of them have had success. You can correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, not recently. I can't remember one that's had success. No.
All right, let's jump in here. The 5th place horse is Just Steel, who came out of this with an injury. Actually, I know I saw Just Steel heading to the doctor to see how everything there. Pretty good to run 5th when you have a leg injury in the Preakness. Is just tough for Just Steel. I mean, Just Steel needs a break, right? I mean, that's the big thing here.
He's getting it.
He's getting it.
he gets his break finally. So
more than unfortunately.
Yeah, right. And it's the Dwyer that I was thinking of. Yeah, the Dwyer Stakes. There you go. But yeah, for sure. I think, look, I mean, he ran, it's just one of those things. He ran so many times. You were just kind of worried something like this would happen. So I did read it. It's not life threatening. It's not a serious injury as far as that goes. So, they said they might be able to race again. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we'll keep an eye on Just Steel. Hopefully he's doing okay. Trivia question from Christopher Maiello. Best winner of the Curlin all time.
There was a horse that dead heated in the Travers that won the Curlin.
What was that?
I cannot think of that horse's name. It's been too long.
To Wikipedia, it is.
I was there when that horse won the Curlin. I was not there when he dead heated the Travers, though.
I was there when he dead heated the Travers. But I was not there when he won the Curlin. I can't remember who it was. So you got the dynamic one, highest honors, Hofburg, Outplay, Connect. VE Day was the horse that dedicated the Travers.
VE Day, yep.
Yeah. Blame in 2009 was your best horse that won the Curlin.
Well, there you go. I would not have known Blame even won the Curlin. So
no, I would not have gotten there either. Blame one of the most. Where does Blame rank in the top 5 most hated horses in horse racing, in American horse racing?
He's right up there. He's got to be number 1, right?
I mean, every time you watch the Pinata races, everyone likes Blame. Shoddy, Blame, that jerk. Yeah, a lot of people not big Blame fans because the fact he beat Zenyatta, but good for Blame.
Yeah. He's a good horse, though.
Yes, very good horse. 6th place in the Preakness here, Uncle Heavy. Look, the price was wrong. He wasn't very good. Not sure what else to say about him.
Right. Agree.
Like, I don't hate the idea of him at 20-1. I will, but like 7-1 is just ridiculous on that horse.
It was nuts. And when they were going to post, he was still 7-1. I literally thought about you and like, this is not what you had in mind when you said, I want to use this horse. So
no,
yeah, it's one of those
things.
No,
not even a little bit. Definitely got overbet there, and did not improve very much. Imagination ran seventh. Mm-hmm. Talked about him a little bit. Like I said, I'm not sure he would have won had he even gotten the trip, but he had no chance with the trip that he had. What do you do with Imagination out of this?
Well, this was the first time he didn't show up, so I think you just regroup with him. I saw a quote from Baffert. It was really weird. He was like, "Yeah, we didn't really have a plan coming in." I'm like, what are you talking about? You didn't have. I
think his plan coming in was to be a blocker for Muth, and then that plan changed.
He wrote him like he was a blocker, right? Yeah. I mean, to me, like I think you just draw a line and you just kind of say, okay, are we targeting the Haskell? Is that what we're going to do? I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on where Muth is going and how he's doing. I haven't heard an update on him, but it seems like Imagination is going to be like the B teamer for Baffert. And look, they usually have some success. So I think you just kind of point Muth one direction and draw a line through Imagination and point him another.
Did you so one of the reasons I actually didn't mind the off track for Imagination, sired by Into Mischief, had the highest Tomlinson rating in the race for off track, Empire Maker on the bottom side. Do you think the track affected him at all, or do you think this was just a clunker of an effort?
It looked like the track may have affected him, but I'm with you. I thought the slop would be fine. So to me though, like he just didn't ever look right. So maybe it was a track, maybe he didn't fire. I mean, it's tough to really tell. Baffert said, hey, Santa Anita, they don't even let us train on a sloppy track. So, we don't know what he'll do. So maybe that had partly to do with it. I don't know, but it's to me, I won't even analyze that race when I think of him when he runs next.
Yep. Isaac bringing up someone who watched a decent amount of Santa Anita. Imagination is not that good. Lost a couple of races he should have won. I agree with you, Isaac. I think it's more of a mental problem than a talent problem, though. I think we talked about this a little bit, Aaron. He's like he's clearly a pack horse, right? He doesn't have that dominant, I need to be in front. And even in the Santa Anita Derby, he gets passed and he's like, oh, maybe I should run again. He gets back in the lead and then he's like, meh, you can have it. Go ahead, right?
Isaac is 100% right, and so are you. He does not have that killer instinct, so to speak. And what surprised me about the Preakness is usually like I fully thought he would lose this race in a heartbreaking fashion again. But what surprised me about this one was he just wasn't even around. Like you look at the horses he's been facing, and Isaac would know this, saying he's watched Santa Anita a lot. Like May Moon, he ran toe-to-toe with him. Stronghold, he ran toe-to-toe with him. And you exited both those races, which were losses for Imagination. You go, well, Imagination was the best horse. He just won't do it, Yeah. And so he didn't even run at all in this one. So it was weird.
Yeah. Mugatu rounds out the field here in last place. What do you do with Mugatu coming out of this, Aaron?
I mean, you just go run him in somewhere that he can actually compete. Yeah, that was the thing. It's crazy to put him in here. I mean, you talk about middle America derbies. I still don't think he'll win one of those, but he could have a much better shot. If you want to run in, quote unquote, bigger races, that would be one that would make sense.
Yeah, we'll see Mugatu again. I guess Kevin mentioning Mugatu is hurt. I had not heard that out of the Preakness, so I hope he is okay if that is true. Yeah, if he is going to be able to run, we will see him again. I will see him in those Middle American style derbies. 2 races on the undercard I want to talk about real quick. First off, my new ex-follower, Jorge Duarte Jr. gets a W. I was happy to see that he started following me there and commented on the Magic Mike show from Thursday saying, nice pick with Grooms All Business. I just want to bring this one up because I don't think Jorge Duarte Jr. gets bet enough. And if you're watching this and you're ever playing these Middle America tracks and specifically stakes races, when he shows up with one and you're like, well, who is that? He only trains for Colts Neck and he's like 31% on the year. Yeah. He's a very important trainer to know if you're betting on these days.
So that horse, I actually jumped out of my seat and was cheering like crazy because I had him on the ticket as well. Too bad didn't hit the Preakness, but that was a big time effort by that horse. He blew him away.
He also got cut off in the stretch and then had to go outside of Whitty after he got in between Beer Can Man and Whitty, had to go around him and then fly forward, able to get a fairly easy win. But that was, I thought, really impressive, especially off the layout. But like I said, Jorge Duarte Jr., if you're betting horses, make sure you know who it is, because it is relevant on these type of days, and it's a great way to get to a horse that was incorrectly priced. 8-1 on the morning line, goes off at almost 6-1, and more or less wins for fun. Race right before it, Aaron. A horse that I know we were both on, Corporate Power, wins the race. He's one that's a little goofy. Got a rough trip, I thought. Was clearly the best horse in the race, and has been mentioned for stakes company afterward. What do you think of Corporate Power's effort?
Yeah, just another weird ride, just keeping him 100 wide the whole way around there. He rode the horse like he thought he was going to win by 15 lengths, and I don't really know what to make of him, because that looked like he was done. And same with the Asmussen horse, Imperial Gun. And then all of a sudden, there they go. They re-rally and they get it done. I heard Shug say he didn't really think like, Belmont, Travers, anything like that yet for this horse. Kind of going to go a little bit more the conservative route, but definitely a bigger stakes race. So he might, be one of those Iowa Derby-ish type horses, West Virginia Derby, whatever you want to say. So, look, I think he's pretty good. I thought his races before this one were better than this one that he actually won.
Yeah, Kevin mentions Corporate Power of the Curlin. Wouldn't be shocked if that's a long-term play for him. It looked like he was a loser, and then looked like he had no chance of losing in the same race. It was very, very interesting when you watch it. But like you mentioned, 4 wide the entire time. Just he was ridden like he could never lose, but it sure felt like he could. Inquiry in the race, I thought there was no reason to take him down. I saw some people say that he should come down. I'm biased. I bet him, but I also don't feel biased when I say there was no reason for Corporate Power to come down.
Well, no, not at all. And they kept not showing the head on, and people were asking, what do you think? I was like, well, if they ever going to show a head on, I'll be able to tell you. And they showed it, and I was like, why are we even looking at this? Like nothing.
Yeah.
If anything, the 10 came out, so that was, it was a long inquiry for nothing.
Yes, I was getting worried for how long it was, because usually the longer it is, the more shenanigans you may see. All right, let's jump forward here. We are now 3 weeks away from what I think could be the best 2 days of racing we will have until the Breeders' Cup, and that's the Belmont Festival at Saratoga. There are a lot of owners and trainers that are going to be targeting this specific weekend at Saratoga, because you're going to have major graded stakes on the turf, on the dirt, on both Friday and Saturday. And it's going to be at Saratoga, where everyone wants to win a race. Let's first, are you excited for the 2 days, and level of excitement compared to like Kentucky Derby weekend? Where are you with the Belmont at Saratoga?
Higher for the Belmont at Saratoga than I am the Kentucky Derby. It feels like we're getting an extra Travers Day. That's how I feel about it. I don't know about you, but I've been looking at the probables. I was like, yeah, no, this feels like Travers Day on steroids. So yeah, I probably will. This is the most excited I've been all year. I'll definitely say that.
Hey, there we go. All right. And do you think they will call it? Shadi said Belmont at the big S, or do you like Bellatoga better? I've heard I saw someone in the chat with Bellatoga earlier.
I hate them both.
Oh, I kind of like Bellatoga.
No, it's Saratoga.
No.
Saratoga hosts the Belmont is what I want it to be called.
It's going to be like the Belmont from Saratoga or something like that. They'll come up with something like that. I kind of liked Bellatoga, but hey, we'll see what DRF decides. Just please make sure you put the actual past performances at Saratoga as the racetrack, instead of what they did with the whole Aqueduct thing, saying they've run it at Aqueduct before, but never Aqueduct before. So we're not going to include them. All right. Probables. You mentioned you had a list for the Belmont. Who do we got right now? Probable for the Belmont.
Yeah, so right now we have Mystic Dan, Seize the Gray, Torpedo Anna, the Wine Steward, Honor Marie, Batten Down, which is Tassis's brother, if you forgot about him, Antiquarian, Fierceness, and Sierra Leone. That's your probables right now.
That's not a bad race.
No.
I mean, Fierceness will be there. Rapoli will want to win this race, 100%. Sierra Leone will be there, 100%. Mystic Dan, I think we both expect is going to be there, 100%. Seize the Gray, definitely going to be there. Torpedo Anna, really? I mean, I guess since Mystic Dan didn't win the Preakness, she's much more likely to run in this race now.
Yeah. I think McPeak will enter one or the other, and they're both very interesting, whichever one enters. So that's great. And like you said, if it's Mystic Dan, let's just for the sake of what we're talking about right now, let's say it's Mystic Dan. That's the Derby winner. That's the Preakness winner. That is the Derby runner-up, who will probably be the favorite, talking about Sierra Leone. And then you got the weird horse of who knows what he's going to do, Fierceness, that could jog or could, go backwards. So those four right there, and then you mix in a few others. I mean, it's going to be just fine as long as we get those four.
Yeah, I can't wait to pick Sierra Leone when Fierceness wins by 10, and I'm just furious about it.
I've already thought of that, yeah, because it's like this does seem like the race made for Sierra Leone, and this will be the one where Fierceness fires that huge shot. And you're like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. What can you do? You mentioned Batten Down. Any thoughts on Batten Down coming in here?
Well, I mean, he ran a huge race at Churchill Downs, on the Kentucky Derby week, broke the maiden and did it really, really impressively. So I'm glad that I hope he's here. I'm glad that they're thinking about it with him. And I mean, Tacitus, brother Tacitus, I mean, that just spices things up, right? But he seemed to have figured it all out. And if you like that corporate power horse we just talked about, Batten Down almost beat him in a maiden special weight there at Gulfstream. So I think he's good.
Now, Wine Stewart, a little interesting there as well. Mike Maker horse that I was really high on as a 2-year-old. We came back really late in the 3-year-old season. I thought ran really well first effort. Did not look so good last time out. It was at Aqueduct, I believe. What do you make of him wheeling back if he does end up in the Belmont?
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. I don't know. I think that last race, the Peter Pan, the glass kind of shattered on him a little bit as far as can he be a Belmont type of horse, or a Triple Crown race contender. I'm not sure because, look, Antiquarian beat him. He's not great, Antiquarian. He's okay, but he's not great. If you're going to be a serious Belmont threat, you got to win the Peter Pan better than that. I mean, look at Arcangelo and what he did at the Peter Pan. That's the type of effort you want to see that you can parlay into the Belmont.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we have and how the betting in this race goes as well, because if you do have Fierceness, if you do have Mystic Dan, if you do have Sierra Leone, you should be able to get some value if you like anybody else. And the three of them probably will allow you to have value on each other as well. Who do you think's the favorite in the Belmont, if that is your field?
Most people are leaning towards Sierra Leone being the favorite in this race. So I think you're going to be looking at Sierra Leone at like 8-5. If I had a guess right now.
I was going to say Sierra Leone, but I was going to say 5-2.
Okay.
A little bit higher, but I do think he ends up the favorite there if that is our field for the Belmont. Is there anyone that you'd like to see that's not on that list?
Boy, good question. Not really. I think Catching Freedom I'd love to see in the race, but I don't know that they're going to be, why would they do it again unless he's just doing great? So I would say Catching Freedom. I think that'd be cool. Well, and here's one I know realistically it was never going to happen, but Forever Young, that's the horse you'd want to see in it.
Yeah. It would be fun to see Forever Young he went back to Japan, so we will not see Forever Young in this spot, but man, it would be fun to see Forever Young in the Belmont. Would have been interesting if he had won, if he had been in the Preakness. Do you think Forever Young would have wheeled back in 2 weeks?
Boy, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know that they would have cared about the United States Triple Crown at all. But my best guess is no, they wouldn't have done it. But
I kind of think no too. Just because I don't think they would have. They wanted the Derby, and you can see that by sending Forever Young home. He would be a legitimate player, literally one of the favorites, probably one of the top 2 choices if he ends up at the Belmont, and obviously not going to do so.
Yep. No, he would be cool to see back. And I guess we're going to see him at the Breeders' Cup, which that's cool. But it would be nice if they would have kept him here and brought him to the Belmont. I mean, he would add so much more to what already is a really good field.
No Brad Cox horses in that field. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, none. And that's why maybe Catching Freedom maybe could jump in there, because you'd think Brad Cox would want to run somebody, but if it's not him, who is it really, right? I mean, just a touch. I don't know what happened to him, but I don't think they would try that. So Catching Freedom might be the only one.
Yeah. I mean, Encino obviously injured. He's out in the farm, so he can't be there either. I would have loved to see Encino in any of these Triple Crown races. Not saying he would have won any of them, but he would have at least made it interesting, because I do think he had enough talent to be dangerous in both of those first 2 races.
I think he would have had a big shot last Saturday. Get the way he runs, like his running style, I think it would have been very interesting. And if he didn't win, the other Cox may have won, because it would have set up a little bit better. Derby, who knows? But he did have a perfect post for that Derby before he scratched. So
Yep. And Saratoga makes a lot of sense for a horse like Just Touch. I actually kind of agree. I just don't think Just Touch comes back because of what happened in the Derby. I think that's what keeps him out.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think, a race like the Woody Stevens might be good for him too, if he kind of maybe tried to cut back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think something may have happened to him. We haven't heard much about him since. So, I wanted to, this is a good comment. Auto 100 buyer for Triple Crown races. I couldn't agree more. What about you?
Yeah, that did not feel like 100 buyer to me.
No.
That felt like a slow. Honestly, the Derby felt like a slow race to me too. Like when
Yeah.
what did they go 27 for the final quarter of a mile? Like
Yeah.
it did not feel like it was that fast of a race. And then this race as well, especially like I'm interested to see the time form numbers. I know Craig Bukowski, I think it is, was posting that like it's nearly impossible to make numbers for Pimlico. I'm interested to see what he comes back with for the Preakness here, because that was a slow pace. Let's be honest, it was a slow pace, and they didn't fly home. Like, what number do you think this comes back at?
It's got to be pretty. It's probably slower than what their best have been that have been running in that race or running races prior to that one. I don't know, like one time form came back strong. Really, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't looked at it yet. I would. Yeah.
120. I can't believe that.
That's a big
I would
number.
say like 115 was going to be my guess.
Yeah. So 118 adjusted raw time form was 123.
Well, to Craig's point, over the years, I have noticed Laurel Park, definitely Parks, throw Pimlico in there. The time forms are usually a little bit higher coming out of there. So maybe that was part of it, but that's pretty shocking that he got a 123 time form. To me, both the races, and again, I'm not knocking the winners or anything like that, but I'm with you. Both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, visually, they didn't look like great races.
No. What odds you would put? Oh, I guess I can't say that. Never mind. I was going to say odds you'd put on a 3-year-old winning the Classic, but the 3-year-old that could win the Classic did not run any other of these races. So I can't really throw that one out there.
Well, and I mean, are you talking about Muth?
I mean, that's right. Muth, how many lengths does Muth win by on Saturday?
Feel like it would have been a lot. But the problem about him is he clearly has something wrong with him. I know they said it's a fever, but he did the same shit for the Rebel. He was coming for the Rebel. Everything was all good. And all of a sudden, oh no, he's not coming. Like, oh, okay. So he's having trouble staying on the track. So that's one that even, maybe he's got the talent, but look, to me, I think the older horses are ahead of the 3-year-olds right now for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't have any 3-year-olds that I'm pointing to and saying I'm really excited about to see what they do in the back half of the year. Now, that being said, we've seen some 3-year-olds develop in the back half of the year. So we'll see what happens here in these later races, if anyone can take major steps forward. I mean, if you told me Authentic was going to win the Classic in May, I would have told you were absolutely crazy. and he was able to win the Classic at the end of the year. So who knows what type of steps forward we get from the rest of this 3-year-old crop. Aaron, anything else horse racing related you want to talk about here before we talk a little hockey?
All right, no, because we're talking hockey next, so I'm going to wrap up the horse racing part of it.
Oh, I forgot one thing. Sorry. I mentioned this at the top of the show. I teased it. NYRA approves pick 5 carryovers. So you can have pick 4 and pick 5 carryovers this year at Saratoga, with 75% of the pool carrying to the next day, and you can have these 25% goes back to the pool. So they've had pick 5s before for the late pick 5, but it never carries the early pick 5. Now both can carry over, as well as the pick 4 at NYRA, and it would carry over to the next day, which is the important part. The reason the early one never carried was because if they had 10 races and if they had 1 through 5, they didn't want to carry it. If the state law was to carry it to the next pick 5, which would have been 6 through 10, which would have been the same day, which isn't a great idea. So obviously they're doing the one into the other now. So apparently that is what they're going to be doing. And that was New York grants approvals for carryovers in pick 4 and pick 5. That was today in DRF. If you want to read the full article.
Great. I love that. One recommendation for NYRA this year up at Saratoga: don't take the race off the turf 1 minute before a pick 5 starts. That's your next goal. Don't do that. Okay. Great start. Now don't screw everybody like multiple times this year. Okay. Back to you.
Yeah. I 100% am not happy with NYRA doing that. I'm also going to give them a little bit of slack, simply because I think it's the gaming board in New York that causes a lot of those problems. Like they can't announce they are taking a race off the turf without the approval. And like they have to ask certain time, but as soon as it gets approved, they have to do it. But they also have to run the race. And like it's a multi-step process. It's not 100% their fault. They could communicate a lot better. I think that's the key, is the communication around it. Not just because, like, if you're like, hey, we are planning on taking race number 6 off the turf. we'll have a further announcement as soon as it is official. Like, you could do those type of things, right? Also, we just need the option to be able to have alternates and pick fives so that you can just pick who you want versus ending up with the favorite. And scratching 1 minute before taking a race. And okay, for everyone who's new to horse racing, new to the podcast, whatever it is, last year at Saratoga, the first race of the pick five was about to break from the gate, and they announced they were taking the third race or second race, I can't remember which, off the turf in the pick five, which meant that you do not get all. You get whoever was on your ticket, and you have no time to change because they were literally loading into the gate. And so huge uproar, huge issue, like terrible, like not a good look at all by NYRA. Tough position for them because, like I said, the New York Gaming Commission slows things down and makes it a lot harder for them to do things in real time. Yes, they could have walked the horses around the gate for 10 minutes, but would we even have scratches in 10 minutes for that race? Like, there's a bunch of other problems with it. But we'll see they were clearly knew they had a problem last year. They responded with it by adding $100,000 to the purse. They probably should have done more, but that's not here nor there. We'll see what happens this year because rain's obviously always an issue in Saratoga, right, Aaron?
Yeah. Oh, every year you're going to deal with it. I mean, you're going to be off the turf for a good portion of that meet. So, yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, as much as it sucks to get off the turf, if you know it well in advance, it really, really helps. In Pimlico, taking races off 10 minutes before sequences this weekend as well. And that's when it gets tough.
And that pissed me off too, because you had the first, the second, and the fifth on the turf, and you knew you were going to run on the turf later in the day. Why are you chewing up the turf early in the day if you think there's any threat of rain that could cause you to have to take the later races off? Like, just take one of them, two of them off the turf before the card starts so everyone knows who's scratched, who's in, and who's out, and then move forward with it. Again, it's a decision that's made for the owners. That's why they did what they did, because they want the owners to be able to run their horses. But it's the bettors that pay the price again. And that's I think, both of our biggest pet peeves with this is that the bettors shouldn't be the one paying the price every time. We're the reason that the sport continues. Without the bettors, there is no horse racing. And it's unfortunate that it seems like people in leadership positions do not agree with that position.
Yep. No, I totally agree with you. And I think most of us assumed races 1 and 2 would be off.
Yep.
And I think you just said it. All you had to do was take 1 and 2 off, and then your rest would be fine. And anyway, they didn't do it. Yeah. So what are you going to do?
All right, let's move on to a little bit of hockey here before we go. We've got a Game 7 tonight, Aaron, after 2 surprise Game 7 winners in the NBA last night, with both the Timberwolves and the Pacers moving on. Oilers heading into Vancouver, -140 favorite. Do you have any idea who's going to win this game?
I bet Vancouver just on principle, as I'm not taking the Oilers as a big favorite. I mean, but no, and this is a dumb series between two dumb teams, and they're going to get beat in the next round. But this should be a very entertaining game. I'm not saying it's going to be a well-played game, but I took Vancouver in the plus money price here. Listen, they're at home. They beat them in Game 5 in a similar, quote unquote, this is a real must win, but Game 5 felt like a must win. And they beat him there at a plus money price, so I'll take him again tonight.
Yeah, I bet. I talked about this on the handle yesterday. I bet under 6 yesterday. Under 6 -115. Now it's 5.5. I don't know if I bet the under still. I haven't looked at the price recently. It was plus 100 this morning, so at least interesting there with the plus money. Edmonton can't score 5 on 5. There are less penalties that are called in Game 7s, and to me, that's a big problem for Edmonton here. We'll see if they're able to break through 5 on 5. They need a huge game for McDavid. How many games does the winner of this series win against Dallas?
1.
Yeah, okay, so we're on board there. I bet Ottinger plus 425 to win the Conn Smythe. I already have him at 14-1. I rebet him at plus 425 because I think they roll against either of these teams, and he's going to be the short price favorite if Dallas wins the Cup. He's going to win. Dallas right now plus 250 to win the Cup. Ottinger plus 425. Who comes out of the East?
Gosh, that's going to be such a great series. I cannot wait for the Rangers in Florida. Going to be just fantastic. I think the Panthers. I gave the Panthers a slight edge. I think they've got a little bit more top end star power. So give me the Panthers.
Okay, I agree. I think it's Stars Panthers. I think the Stars win it. You agree?
I think the Panthers are going to beat them.
No, boo.
But I've got the Stars at 12-1 to win the Cup. So I'm rooting for the Stars, but I just think the Panthers, they've got it all. But look, Dallas was super. The way they handled Colorado, that was impressive.
Yeah, Kevin mentions this. What did you think about that disallowed goal in overtime, Aaron?
I don't know. I don't know what goalie interference is. I'm with Kevin. Like, that goal was disallowed, but then the goal that Florida scored in Boston the other night, they keep it up, and it's like, well, that was way worse than what we just saw here. It's crazy, and to me, it's like, I get that. Hey, they called it on the ice, and boy, to overturn it, we need all kinds of information. Well, fuck, just stop doing the replays then, right? Because the replay showed the answers both times, did they not? And it's just
I don't see how that goal was disallowed. He wasn't in the crease. He was like, that should end the discussion. If he wasn't in the crease, how's it interference?
And he wasn't even close to the crease.
No, he was close. He was close. Yeah.
Well,
there was no skate blade in the crease. And then Makar is the one who created the contact with the goalie when he pushed him. I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? But yeah, the puck did not lie. Duchesne, the one who was interfering with the goalie, gets the overtime goal. I thought that was really serendipitous and nice to see there. Any thoughts on the NBA here before we take off?
I don't follow that as much, especially when the Thunder are out. I don't, but I did watch the games yesterday. Total shock about Minnesota winning that game after they were down. Total shock. The Pacers and the Knicks, look, they both suck. Who cares? But that game, I cannot believe Minnesota came back and beat the Nuggets. That was shocking.
Yeah, down 20 was down 15 at half. It's the largest halftime deficit erased in Game 7 history. Anthony Edwards is going to be fun to watch in this series. You get Luka and Edwards. I'm excited to watch the Minnesota-Dallas series. I think the winner of that series beats Boston. I don't think Boston's ready. And in the preparation, like Boston, who clearly has mental issues, right? We saw them lose Game 2 of both of these series, including by 24 at home to Cleveland in Game 2. How do you think they're able to ratchet up their intensity from the level that they have been at to the level they're going to need to be at in the NBA? Like, clearly Game 1, you want to be against Boston, right? Just because of the mental issue of that hurdle they're going to have to take.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And look, you said it. They are playing in the JV conference. It is bad. These teams are not good over there. Now, look, Indiana can really shoot it, so they better be ready or they could ambush you. But Boston should be able to get by them. But you're right. The West, man, look, you watch the Thunder and you watch the Nuggets, two teams that are out of it. They're good teams. Like, I think they could beat everybody in the East without any doubt. So I'm with you. I think the winner of that series is gonna beat Boston. I've been saying it. And look, Boston's like minus 130 to win this thing. That's nuts.
Yeah, you can get. I think it's 5-1 right now on Dallas. Last I saw it was plus 275 on Minnesota to win the title, and Boston minus 165. It's just crazy. I don't think I've ever seen a minus 10,000 favorite in a conference finals series before, and that's what we have right now. So just absolutely wild. Yeah, the Knicks injuries were a problem for them. That was a bummer. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun Western Conference Finals. I'm pumped for both series in hockey. One, because I can't wait to bet on Dallas, and the other because I think it's going to be a phenomenal series. Anything before we take off here, Aaron? Got a full open slate. Anything you want to talk about?
First period unders in that Florida-New York series. I think that's the play. And like you said, I think Dallas is the play in the other one. So I've kind of already got it planned out. I got the bets planned out for the next, 10 days in hockey there. Won't even have to handicap much. So that's good. And baseball tonight. I've got the Orioles at plus 110 tonight.
There we go. Liking the O's. Yeah, I honestly, if I get Dallas, Vancouver, I get to bet first period under every game. If I get Dallas, Edmonton, I get to bet a bunch of money on Dallas to win the series at like minus 120. So I'm happy either way. I'll take either of those series. Agree with you on the East there. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody, here on the Magic Mike Show. Aaron, thank you very much for jumping in for Magic as well. Fun little Preakness 149 talk. Magic, I think, might be back for Thursday. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. If not, I've got a couple people who reached out wanting to be guests. So I'll reach out to one of them, get them on the show here for a late pick 5. We'll let you know what that's going to be here in the future. But until then, thank you very much for listening, watching, commenting, everything. And good luck with all your bets.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.